to Houston Sports Talk with your host, Robert Land.
Welcome to a live Rockets trade deadline show. Special show for you guys. And I'm going to mix in some serious concerns about exactly where this franchise is. Thanks for checking into the best Houston sports podcast, part of the National Bleav Network, presented by FanDuel. And I want you guys to be a part of the conversation. So please drop in your comments and I'll react after I hit some key points off the top. I hope I can hear from some of you guys. I'm not happy about what happened. I hope you guys aren't happy. Cam Thomas is a name I see brought up right off the bat. I don't know. That's somebody that's not exactly a Udoka guy, but maybe they'd be willing to listen. I'm going to get into what the deal is with some of the Rockets' decision-making as far as, where I am concerned about where this thing is going and the wheels maybe coming off. The future, number one, is not bright. It's not as bright as we thought. I can see it, but can the Rockets brass see it? I'm about to break this down piece by piece. It's not just some emotional reaction because of the Celtics game. The picture's been building for me as this season is unfolding. Point number two, I disagree with making no trades when you've lost $37 million of valuable players to injury, players you could move in that deal. With draft picks, you can move. With Kevin Durant, still a top 10 to 12 player. The $37 million I'm talking about, VanVleet and Adams. If Fred VanVleet could waive the no trade, that's available for you. Finney-Smith, also a tradable asset with no guarantee. He regains his form considering he's in his 30s and he's coming off an injury. Finney-Smith, too similar to all the one-dimensional players, Okogie, Jayshon, Holiday, Capella, Sheppard, a bunch of guys who are either all defense or all offense. A couple are frankly neither. So that's my issue is you've got all these guys that just do one thing. There's not enough variance, and the Rockets don't seem to get where this is heading them and why they're having some issues on offense and some on defense as well at times. VanVleet, Adams, and Finney-Smith, all injury risk as older players. So that's a lot to bank on going into next season. So, again, I want you guys to get in on the conversation as I move along. Let me see the next point. Point number three. There were role-playing guards going for second-round picks all over the NBA at the deadline. It wasn't as if the Rockets didn't have the capital to go after Ayo Dosunmu, Kobe White, or some decent options that could at least give this injury-riddled team some directions to go, some options offensively. Unlike some Rockets influencers, I'm not a believer you had to get a star or even a starter. They just needed to get upgrades at some of the role positions. A role player would be fantastic. As far as second round picks, who cares about giving up second round picks? With the NIL, it's going to continue to get more difficult to find steals in the second round. We'll see if the Rockets land somebody in the buyout market, but hard to believe that a player that they will find on the buyout market can provide both real minutes and legit offense. We'll see what they can come up with, if anything, but that's going to be difficult going forward. Point number four, the NBA title for the Rockets is gone. And it's a shame because the NBA title was wide open this season. OKC is susceptible. Jalen Williams' season is been an issue with the injuries, and I don't know if he's going to be ready by the playoffs. A soft tissue issue from SGA is going on as we speak. So is he going to be 100% come the playoffs? But both of those guys a little bit in jeopardy. Definitely Jalen Williams. The Jalen injury is a big deal. That's an all-NBA caliber two-way threat who was key for them in their playoff run. Aaron Gordon, a huge injury concern for the Nuggets. The Spurs have less experience than the Rockets. The T-Wolves aren't exactly invincible, and the East is a mess too. This is similar to the opportunity the Texans had this year. You don't always get this. Why not at least do a little something? You probably, with second round picks, and guys that maybe aren't your future. You wouldn't have to give up everything to get those type of guys. Lonzo Ball, is he done? I don't know. That's a good question. I'm not sure where he's at. That's a guy I could see them getting over, say, a Cam Thomas. But is he going to give you a ton of offense? No. Could he be a guy that a point guard that you could go to as somebody to direct the offense a little bit? Potentially, but his shooting has been really bad. Let's continue, and I'm going to come back to the comments. So guys, hang in there. But before I dive into what I think are the Rockets' worrisome future issues, got to talk about the Texans in the NFL just for a second. The Seahawks are a 4.5-point favorite in the Super Bowl. The Seahawks, by the way, Josh Jones, a former Texan in the Super Bowl. But according to our FanDuel odds, 4.5-point favorites, the Seahawks. I'm less confident in betting the spread than the over-under. It's 45.5. So I'm going to hit the under on that. Both of these defenses, very good. Feels like this is either close or Seattle wins big because the Patriots can't score. So that's why I'm doing that. I still think the Seahawks can win or will win because here's something that you guys might not know. Drew Lock is the backup quarterback, and Mizzou backups are 3-0 in Super Bowls. How about that stat? How about that knowledge? That's what you get from a Mizzou alum, but keep that in mind. Quick reminder, I want to see you in the live comments, but also if you're watching on the replay, want to hear from you there. In case you missed it, Rockets analyst, Red Nation blogger joined me a couple of days ago. Look for it if you missed it, and make sure you're subscribed on YouTube and your favorite podcast app. All right, before I get into the comments, this is big, guys. This is going to be real big. Why should you start freaking out about the Rockets' supposed super bright future? Everybody's just assuming like, oh, they're going to be around. It's going to be a great team. They got all this talent. Well, let me start with Udoka. Nothing I haven't touched before, but Udoka's got no answers offensively. He's had 2 off seasons to self-evaluate and realize he needs help. Doesn't do it, hasn't done it, yet to go out and get an offensive mind. The Brady offensive coaches are definitely not on this staff. Udoka certainly isn't an offensive genius. So in an offensive era with a lot of creative coaches and highly skilled players, you cannot rely on a 1990s defense and rebound philosophy. You can't. Not saying it isn't important. That stuff's important, yeah, to go out and win a championship, but it isn't enough. It's not just the creativity in the offense, but the Rockets work against the math every night by taking so few threes. Part of it's the roster, but this is the roster Udoka helped put together. So he's a part of this. I'll get to Jabari and Sheppard shortly, but whatever their struggles, you got to fire more 3-point shots. Those guys have got to put it up, and you got to figure out a way to get more up. We've discussed Udoka's Coach Thibodeau problem of gassing his players when they play too many minutes, the jump shot, the bad jump shooting, all that stuff. This team's issue, it becomes even worse, especially in fourth quarters. The fourth quarters, you're out of gas. The jump shot goes. Does that sound familiar? Yeah, that's what's happened. Point number 2, I'm also panicking about the future because not only has none of the young core stepped up a level this season, but Jabari and Sengun have regressed. Who's the future number 1 on a championship team from this group? There isn't one. This looks like a terrible offensive team when you take away Kevin Durant, who we know can't do this magic forever. So then what? Where do they go? You got no number 1. You got no offense right now, and I don't know if that changes. Point number 3, nobody believed me a couple of months ago when I said Jabari's a bad contract next year. Are you starting to get it now? This is pretty much his ceiling. Go find me the guys who've taken that gigantic leap beyond year 4. It's not there much. I mean, you're not going to find it. This Jabari on his rookie contract, it's perfectly fine. Nice role player, nowhere close to elite. The shooting's average, the defense slightly above average, the creation and passing are poor. So that's where you are with him. Point number 4, this is who Sengun is. We're pretty much at his ceiling. It's year 5. He played pro ball prior to the NBA. So it's pro ball year 6, 7, 8, whatever. Sengun and Jabari are hard workers, but they haven't made any progress in their true shooting, in their efficiency, in their defense. in the last couple of years. Sengun's defense has regressed this year. Jabari is good, not great. Sengun's ability to look like a star offensively is totally matchup dependent, and that's not a number one on a title team. His shot making and finishing have him handcuffed. Passing and processing quietly stayed stagnant. He can be too slow to react to double teams and gives you the interior passes, but not the ones that lead to the threes, which goes back to my earlier point on the Rockets losing the nightly math battle. Sengun not finding guys out at the perimeter. Love Sengun and Jabari as teammates and humans. That goes without saying, but that's where we are with Sengun. Point number 5, it's time to be realistic about Amen shooting. It's gone from bad to worse on the perimeter. And if you followed this league for years, there's about a 1% chance. It's minuscule. He can even become close to an average shooter. Has he added a post-up game? No. Added a consistent floater? No. Can he consistently make elite passes? No. The passes are sometimes incredible. Other times they're turnovers. He actually runs the offense, but not great. Is there a problem considering that there's no other legit point guard and he's been given the chance? Yeah, I mean, that's a problem. He's not really running the offense all that great. His handle and free throw shooting are obviously much better this year, but the hope of Amen being a number one, of being a real point guard on a title team, it's just not there. Point number 6, the Rockets high-end draft picks, meaning the Suns 27 and 29 picks, the Brooklyn 27 swap, and the Mavs 29 swap are not as valuable as we once thought. I'll start with the Brooklyn swap and the Suns 27 pick. Yes, the Nets are still likely bad next year, but the 27 draft is considered really bad. It's maybe worse than the Sheppard draft, and we know what happened there. It hurts that the Rockets have no first-round picks this year because this is projecting as all-time great draft, which is getting deeper and deeper on a monthly basis. There's more hope for the Suns pick in 29, but it's very unlikely a high lottery now that the Suns have a great coach who can pull a lot out of his talent. He's doing a fantastic job. The Mavs swap, that's about Cooper Flagg, and he's quickly turning into a superstar, a floor raiser who will put free agent talent to Dallas. He's going to bring them there. So that's a problem. Point number 7, and this is my last one. You guys know where I am on Reed Sheppard. At best, he's a backup. It's become Jabari all over again. We got fooled by his shooting in one small sample size of a college season. With Reed, it was even worse because he was a backup shooting low volume player. He wasn't considered a high upside talent out of high school. This wasn't the next coming. Everything was banked on that shooting. His handle, iffy for a point guard. His defense, a disaster. Fans and broadcasters should know better than to be enamored with consistent, reckless attempts at steals. For every time he gets a steal, there's 9 times his guy goes to the basket and either scores or puts the Rockets defense in scramble mode, which normally leads to a score. As for the shooting, his first 2 years, he's 40.1% from the field, 36.9% from 3. He's played 101 games and taken 779 shots. Not a low sample. Your brain may have gotten fooled by his first 17 games this year when he shot 45% from 3, but that's just 1 month. What about Jeremy Lin, Linsanity? Remember all that? He got hot for a month. Just because it happens doesn't mean you can bank on it in the NBA. It's about consistency. You guys know I'm not a fan of Udoka's offense, but Sheppard takes open shots. He's had tons of open shots. He has to because he's small. He's not taking Durant contested shots. And I get people coming at me that he's 21 and only in his second year. I'll compare him to a couple of other small shooters, though, who are major defensive liabilities and their first 2 seasons, and we'll see what you got. Steve Nash, 45% from the field, 41.6% from 3. He was really good. Nash had roughly the same amount of attempts and playing time as Sheppard has had so far. He was behind Kevin Johnson and Jason Kidd. Steph Curry shot 47% from the field, 43.9% from 3. But it's not just that. The key is Sheppard's handle is poor. Curry and Nash can use their dribble to get to 3-point shots, which Reed just can't seem to do. Is he ever going to get there? I don't know. It doesn't look good. Yeah, you mentioned it. I mean, the gospel pointed it out, was what I was saying. Nash can dribble, though. Exactly. Ime Udoka needs better support staff. Yep, we all agree on that. Thanks for that. Good point. Stone just wasted another postseason run, asleep during regular season. Agree with Brett on that. And here's the deal. Kevin Durant, this is not going to continue to happen. I mean, it's rare when you get healthy seasons like this and a guy playing at this level. And I'm figuring he might break down here. He's definitely not going to be ready for the playoffs. I'm going to say the Rockets are going to lose in the first round. I mean, I think it's one and done. Unless they get some great matchup, unless they can start winning more in the regular season to move up so they're not playing somebody as tough in the first round. But it doesn't look good. Yeah, the gospel agrees with me. He says the draft is great this year. Draft in 27 is poor. Look, I want this to be different. You know, I love the Rockets, been rooting for them forever, going back to the early 80s. It's frustrating that this is sort of taken another direction. It's like Rafael Stone and this organization is not seeing where some of these guys are going. They're not ahead of the game. You know, maybe they should have seen the Reed Sheppard stuff over, watching him over this past year and seeing where that was going. There's still people out there that believe in him. So maybe they can still get value for him in the offseason, but I'm not trusting him going forward. I just don't think he's the guy. As far as Sengun, Dimitri says, right about Alpi and Amen. Even Giannis, who didn't have mid shooting, worked on it. Alpi is great in offense, but his D is a joke. This year it's been a joke. I don't know what happened. I don't know how much Dylan had to do with just motivating him. Only Eason has a credible three-point shot, and I love Eason. I haven't mentioned him as a point, but obviously that's another point against the Rockets going forward. Tari Eason's health. Like, what's the deal? Is this guy ever going to be able to play a full season? Is he ever going to play back-to-back games consistently? Can he stay on the floor? And he needs to get better at other parts of his game, but he's at least elite role player. But what I'm talking about, why I'm worried about their future, is who are the guys that are going to do it offensively? They don't have offense. They don't have a number one guy. This is, something that I think they thought would develop from 3 or 4 or 5 different of these guys, and it's just not happening. I was for the Durant trade because I don't really feel like they gave up much. I had no problem with that. I thought being around Durant might help these other guys. It would give them a shot if somebody slips this year, that you might be able to do something in the playoffs. Maybe you wouldn't need a top 5 guy, which you typically do to win a championship. And with Durant, and I thought a lot of really, really good players, maybe you could do something. But, Van Vliet, it's unfortunate, but that's what they should have done. They should have looked at some other options to just totally not blow the season, because, look, Fred Van Vliet, he could be back next year and everything's fine, but he's getting older. There's a lot of mileage. Udoka's played him a lot. He played a lot in Toronto. And it's not like he's this incredible point guard that's just going to make everything, that's going to wash everything away. Udoka's had issues offensively. It's still going to be a problem. How do they score in the playoffs? You can't just throw it to Durant over and over again. It's not a plan. It's not a plan to throw it to Sengun over and over again. The pick and roll between Sengun and Durant's fine. When they're out of the game, what do you do? And then sometimes that pick and roll is going to be figured out by teams that can spend a whole series, a whole 2 weeks, game planning for that. It just can't be one simple, we're going to run this pick and roll over and over and over again. And, I just feel like Sengun's a guy that's not going to finish around the basket well in the playoffs when you get against better defensive teams. He has success when everybody's just like, we're not that good. We're trying to tank, or he's got the right matchup on a particular night, or the coach just didn't have enough time to prepare for it, or whatever, or he's hot. There's a lot of that stuff. But Yeah, the gospel says Shep ain't it. I can honestly say we should have drafted Castle without question. And I know people say, well, Castle can't shoot either, but he can defend. He's one of the better defenders in the NBA already. And his shooting percentage overall, this true shooting, because of how well he finishes inside the arc, is better than Sheppard. And another thing you got to factor into Sheppard is like he hasn't been exactly elite as a free throw shooter. It's indicative typically of what you are as a shooter overall, your free throw shooting. He should be up at about 88%. He should be in the Durant range if he's this great shooter, if that's who he is. And we haven't seen it yet. Can JD Davidson get more minutes? Can he play the point even off the bench? I mean, they're testing him out there. They're throwing him out every now and then. And I'm not expecting a whole lot from JD Davidson. I don't know what this guy's great at. He was a little bit better of a shooter than people thought in the G League, but I don't know if shooting is his calling card. He's not some great passer. He's not a great defender. I don't know what his thing is that sticks out. Tyrone agrees with me. No trade, no playoffs. Dimitri says Houston had trade pieces for a superstar. Maybe, I mean, look, Giannis hasn't moved. They weren't happy with the offers. I don't know if the Rockets had stepped up and given their Godfather offer, Sengun, and all the draft picks, if that would have been enough. But it's something that a couple of months ago, I would have said, no, let's, I don't know if I want to bank into Giannis with him getting older and injuries and maybe only 2 or 3 more good years. But at this point, I don't know what the future of this team is. As long as you're not giving up Amen in that trade, I would have been for a Giannis deal. I would have tried to keep Tari, of course, because I think he's a guy that you want to have next to Giannis. But we had Finney Smith and Tari as trade options and Sheppard, the Van Vliet money. It's always important to notice that he's got this no trade clause. So you'd have to get him to agree. I mean, there's 30 games left in the season. He doesn't have to move to the new place. You could have said, well, we can offer you a wink, wink offer into next year. That's maybe a 3 or 4 year deal, which allows him to play off the bench and be an option for the Rockets off the bench, down the road. That could have been something that they could have done with Van Vliet. I don't know. But, typically if a team says, well, we're not sure if we want you here, even if the player has a player option, it's you want to be where you're wanted. So let me keep looking at some comments. Says Rafael Stone's got to go. I don't know. Like there better be a plan. I'm willing to give him to this summer, but it's a problem. As far as Mike Conley, I'm throwing up that comment. Mike Conley, I mean, he's kind of washed, isn't he? I mean, what is Mike Conley? If Mike Conley had something, couldn't the Timberwolves have used him at least as an off the bench guy? I mean, they ended up getting the Soon move, but still, I mean, Mike Conley, I don't know how much of it. The Rockets need somebody that could give them real minutes and that can score. I mean, Conley, he's not much of a scorer anymore because he's not quite the shooter. He definitely can't drive he's just not what they need. Somebody that could get points on the board. That's why I mentioned Sunmu and Kobe White. Whatever their weaknesses are that you might see defensively, it's on a bad team. If Udoka says I'm this incredible defensive guy, then help turn those guys into defensive guys. That's what you got to do. People say go get Cam Thomas. My worry isn't just that he's not a defensive guy. Cam's just kind of a ball hog, and we've got too much lack of ball movement as is. So, yeah, I see all the Cam Thomas love. I'm just not real into Cam Thomas because of that. And he was somebody that you would think, the Nets need talent, right? Why couldn't he have worked out with the Nets? And they've got a very good coach, a very good defensive coach too. So you would you would see some improvement there. But this whole thing has gotten off track and off the rails way faster than I thought. I'm surprised we are where we are. I'm surprised that Jabari hasn't improved at all. I'm surprised that Sengun didn't get better at all, and both of them dropped off. I mean, that's a super concern. I've already talked about the fact that Sengun, it's more the neck up that's bothering me. That's the problem with Sengun right now. It's the lack of getting back on defense, the lack of focus on defense and rotation, the lack of ability in clutch free throw shooting. It's head games. It's that's the stuff that it's also that he can't finish around the basket, but just getting some of that other stuff squared away, it doesn't look as bad. And at least I go, if all that's under control, this is a really good number 2 guy on a championship team, and you would take that. I mean, you want him to be number 1, but at least he would be that. Yeah, the thought is, if Brandon says if Fred didn't get injured during the offseason, we wouldn't be saying any of this. Well, there would have been concern about Udoka's offense. I mean, the offense was a concern with Fred out there. And I get it. We got KD now, so there's that. But look, he's not good offensively. Nothing has changed. What are they going to do if Fred's here? It's still going to be a lot of giving the ball to Durant and Sengun. It's not going to be a lot of off-ball stuff. It would have helped, though, for sure, in a lot of ways to have Fred here. And it wouldn't have looked as bad. But would the problems then surface in the playoffs, where you need the creativity on offense even more so than the regular season, and you can't overwhelm people with talent and that sort of thing? So I'm not so sure that everything gets fixed with Fred. And if they keep him next year, we'll see. Maybe they start fixing stuff. But yeah, it's frustrating. I always see people in the comments, and it's always, if you're from Turkey or you're a big Sengun fan, man, you don't want to see the guy. You guys don't deserve Sengun, blah, blah, blah. Come on. We're rooting for the guy as hard as we can, but we have to state obvious stuff that's going on. And we're just pointing out some real obvious things that not just Rockets fans point out, but other people see it as well. And so, yeah, this is it's a season that feels like a lost season after, all the excitement and everything. All you can hope for now is Jabari and Sheppard just all of a sudden turn the corner. And every single game, I'm sort of waiting for, okay, this is the game that they're going to start shooting the ball better. This is the game they're going to put it all together. This is when it happens. And I've been waiting and waiting and waiting. And at some point, you just have to come to reality. It's the same reality that we came to with Jalen Green, the same deal. And I like Jabari better than Jalen because of what he offers defensively, and he's a very good role player in what he does. But it's still a lot of the same issue of like, what can he give you offensively that you desperately need? And you desperately need that shooting. You desperately need that offense. And it's just not there. And same with Reed Sheppard. You need the offense that's not there. So, I don't know where you go from here. I see people saying, Rich says, call Mike Malone. Yeah, bring him in as an advisor. Wouldn't be a bad idea. But Udoka, it doesn't seem to be getting through his head. Get in his, I guess, see what you can to get to somebody that can get to Udoka. Tell him like, hey, dude, you're not figuring it out offensively. It's not getting any better, but I don't know. Like either you get it or you don't get it. And some coaches just, they don't get it. Somebody said Dylan better than Jabari. In some ways, yes. Jabari does some things differently. In that trade, the hope was that there was more to see out of Jabari. Who would have known that there was more to see out of Dylan than all of this? So, that's what's kind of hilarious. But yeah, it's frustrating as hell what's happened. And I see a lot of Rockets people talking. If you go to Locked On Rockets or you listen to Ben Dubose or David Hardesty, and everybody seems to be not panicking about what's going. No, it's if you're thinking about a big picture Rockets future, it is time to panic, because it's not just, oh, you've got these picks and there's hope with that, But like I'm saying, the trade value of the picks, the trade value of Jabari, the trade value of Reed Sheppard, the trade value of Sengun, all of them are decreasing. They're lowering their trade value with every game they play, and that's a concern. So you have all this stuff that you thought was like good trade value, even, if you needed to make that deal and you felt like you needed to get that number one guy, but so many of these guys are showing, are they really a good role player at all? Are they a weak role player? Are they a role player on a bad contract like Jabari might be next year? I mean, yeah, it's all kind of a mess. Really appreciate. I still see the comments coming in, and it's good to see. But I feel for you guys out there because this looked like it was going to be something for a few years. I see it was a comment. I think Katie and Sengun are frustrated for not having a real floor general. Of course they are. Of course they are. I think KD, though, understands what happened. There's nothing, a lot of ways, there was nothing that you can do. And I'm not sure who the floor general that they could have gone out and got. That's the thing. Everybody's like, oh, we need a real, well, who's the point guard? Who's that guy? It's easy to say, go get a guy. Who's the guy that's on the trade market? I don't want Ja. It's a bad contract. He's a problem. I mean, I don't trust him. He's terrible defensively. He's not good at finishing around the basket like he used to be. He's terrible shooting. Do we need another bad shooter coming to the Rockets? I mean, no thanks. LaMelo is, taking himself out of the picture because he's playing well. So, who are you going to go get? I think Drew Holiday would have been a disaster in a couple of years because the money he was making, and how healthy is he? Where is he in his career? So, I just don't know what you do. So good to talk to you guys. Don't forget, again, Red Nation Blogger, we talked a couple of days ago, hit some stuff early in that show you might want to check out. He had some thoughts on Jabari and Reed that I sort of differed a little bit in. So you might want to take a look at that. Make sure you're subscribed. Love hearing from you guys. Just be fair with your comments, and don't comment and take anything I say personally, because I don't hate these guys. They're great. I like this team. They all seem like good guys. You root for all of them. So anyway, that's all for the live stuff. Later today, I'm going to post the Texans' big offseason questions with a guest. Look for that tonight. Hope you guys enjoy that. Comment, like that one as well. And we'll talk more Rockets, I'm sure, next week with a guest. But good to chat with everybody. And hopefully some things turn around pretty soon for some of these young guys, because they really need something right now. Take care, everybody. Have a great one.
You're listening to Houston Sports Talk.
Hey, you can support the show by subscribing on YouTube and commenting on the videos. Listen to Houston Sports Talk on Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, and Google. Don't forget to tell a friend and share our show on social media. Spread the word, everybody. Thanks for listening.